life.
Hey everybody, my name is Joshua. I want to welcome you to the CLE group chat where we read and discuss various articles and try to provide a biblical perspective. Now today is August 12th, 2017, where we have Jeannie from Australia, Donna from Indiana. Also from Indiana we have Christopher, who started this ministry. Now we're only allowing our church members on these video calls, but you can still watch and use the live chat and share this video with family and friends to watch it with you live. And if you're watching a recording of this and prefer to watch it as it happens, make sure you're subscribed and click the bell. And that just lets you know when we're live so you can chat with other live viewers during the podcast. Now, without further ado, an article from the tab is titled Vegetarians. Oh, my bad. We have Lorraine here. Hello, Lorraine. Anyway, the article says, an article from the tab is titled Vegetarians Are Unhealthy and Mentally Disturbed, says new research. I knew it. You've probably spent the first month of the year listening to suddenly healthy friends harping on about their couch to 5K, dry January, or new vegetarian vegan lifestyle, which is vastly superior to your garbage diet. And that's probably been hard, but here's some news to make you feel better. A study from the University of Graz says popular opinion, vegetarian and vegan diets don't make people healthier. In fact, it found that vegetarians are ill more often, more susceptible to physical and mental disorders, and generally have a lower quality of life than people who eat meat.
That's only an opposite of every single scientific study ever done.
VeggieTales is poisoning America's youth.
They're more at risk of cancer, have more heart attacks, and are more likely to suffer from psychological disorders. The study examined 1,320 people, divided into 4 groups separated by diet: vegetarians, meat eaters with lots of fruits and vegetables, people who ate relatively little meat, and people who ate a lot of it. Accounting for smoking and physical exercise, the researchers concluded the big difference in susceptibility to disease was dependent on diet. Vegetarians, the study found, were more than twice as likely to have allergies as meat eaters. They were 3% more likely to contract cancer and a massive 150% more likely to have a heart attack. Vegetarians were also hit harder by the 14 of the 18 illnesses monitored in the study, which include diabetes, migraines, and osteoporosis.
See, that's the problem with America's epidemic. We've been eating too many vegetables. I think we need to go to more processed foods. I think we need to eat unhealthy meats. I think that's where we need to go. If America would just stop eating their carrots and their broccoli, we wouldn't have all these cancers and diabetes and other problems that we've accumulated.
And to me, it sounds like the author's, he's trying to make them vegetarians seem weak. Like, oh, you'll be weak and sick if you're on this vegetarian diet. But and they're giving these numbers. Now, I don't know if these numbers are accurate, but if let's say they are. So I would imagine that these bad numbers, I'd like to hear what you think, but I'm thinking maybe these bad numbers are...
Hey, Josh?
There's a fella who, I think he's called like the Million Mile Man or something like that, and he's a vegan, and he has ran like across the entire United States on his diet. And a lot of CrossFitters are vegetarian. I mean, you can be fit and physically active, get your protein requirements and everything else.
Can you explain to people what CrossFit is, just in case they don't know?
Vegetarian, yes, I can. CrossFit is a form of functional fitness. It emphasizes functional fitness like squats and lunges and that sort of thing, as well as there's some other things that you can do.
They have a yearly contest called the Strongest Man on Earth or the Strongest Woman on Earth, which is a CrossFit contest, and
it's put on by Reebok.
There's a surprising amount of vegetarians among them. So when Josh was saying, he was talking about, the article was saying that
Will
these
make you
people are not
weak.
very strong. They make you
No.
weak.
Now,
Really.
if you're only going to eat bread and crackers, then yeah, you're going to be weak. But if you eat vegetables and healthy foods,
Support
fruits and
your local
vegetables.
CSA, right? Support your local CSA.
Yep. Then seriously, yeah, do go to your local farmers market. Buy organic.
I have a question though, Joshua. Does it say at all why they thought that it caused a problem? I mean, was there anything specific, or was it just a general article? Because I'm sitting here thinking about all the possible things that could go wrong if you did a vegetarian diet, but you did it incorrectly and you didn't get enough protein. So did they specify?
Or did the participants become vegetarian temporarily and have a super poor diet beforehand? Because if they did, that's also a major contributing factor.
That's a good point. I didn't even think of that.
That's what I was thinking of when he was reading it. I'm like,
Yeah.
No.
Very good point.
We'll have 2 articles here, and they're very related.
So you're not going to answer the
our
question.
No,
We had like
I'm
2 questions answered. Like, moving on.
Dude.
no.
Local news broadcast does that. You're like, like, this is floating around your house right now and could kill you. More at 11.
I hate that.
I was thinking, because the next one for sure, the next article will say, oh, vegetarians have deficiencies in minerals and B17 and some vitamins, right? But I don't recall if this one that we're reading right now says exactly why.
You
You
said
mean B12.
you said B17. It's B12. The question that was
Because
specifically
it comes from meat, but if you aren't eating grass-fed meat, you're not getting enough of it anyway.
I'll simplify the question that they're trying to ask. What were the exact conditions of the experiment, or did the article say?
Well, it said they were put on the diet of they were broken up into 4 groups. It says, I mean, I don't know.
It doesn't say exactly what was the population they chose from. Does it say that?
Yes.
Does it source there?
The study examined 1,320 people, divided up into 4 groups, separated by diet.
Well, we're asking about the selection.
The selection process.
How did they select them?
I don't believe it says. Well, I guess we'll see later, but I don't believe it does say.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. So I was thinking that maybe the numbers might, like when it says like allergies, like the vegetarians, twice as many of them have allergies. So I was thinking that maybe that is true. Like maybe the weak people are the ones that go on vegetarian diets. It's because they have allergies that they choose to be vegetarian, because they think that's going to be healthier for them. It was just a thought. I didn't know.
I don't know about that. But age is a huge factor in your allergies, and then your genetics and where you live are all huge factors. And honestly, if you have a poor immune system from eating a crappy diet, your allergies are going to be worse.
And that's I can attest to some of that, because around here, I mean, growing up around this area, I've always had really bad allergies and reactions to them. And I still do. Don't misunderstand. I mean, people are going to react to them. Just because you switch to vegetarian doesn't mean you will have 0 reaction. But ever since Lorraine's been feeding us healthier in here, my reactions have been, I mean, the amount of intensity of reactions to allergies has been decreased significantly.
Well, and when you take your vitamins.
Well, that's part of it.
Because we take a special herb that helps us with our allergies. So there's things that you can take that'll be natural and even vegetarian.
But the purpose is that
assist your allergies.
if you were eating that stuff, you wouldn't have to take the vitamins.
Yes.
So that's the point that I'm trying to make.
No, that's not the point, because you're gonna. I mean, it just, most people have allergies, and if you don't, you're lucky. So, or give it 10 years and you will.
Or you live in a certain location where it doesn't affect you. Like, when I lived out, I moved over to Oklahoma. Of course, I got over when I lived there for 2 years, I got every sickness you could possibly imagine. I was sick about every 3 weeks with some flu because I wasn't used to, I didn't have any immunity built up to the stuff that was going on out there because the winds blow through there, blow all sorts of stuff in that area. But they don't have any of the kind of pollens and stuff out there that you don't experience more in the Midwest.
It's more windy.
Yeah, that's the whole point. And out there, I never had allergic reactions. So sometimes, just like what you're saying, it depends on where you live. It depends on what you eat. There's a lot of factors that vary into that.
You know, some people are more allergic to dust, and you know, some people are more allergic to pollen.
Yeah, my mom.
It just depends.
Yeah, she's more allergic to mold and dust, right? We've ever seen that. So my mom's like that. I'm not like that, but she is.
So it just depends on your genetics and your predisposition.
And the article continues. People who maintain a
saying all that, I know, because we're laughing like that went way off. There's a reason we went into all that, is because these are factors that do not get taken into consideration during a study like this. One of the many,
if they
by the way,
they're not considered heavily enough.
That's why many of us, when we're listening to this, like, you know, the girls started out giggling. I started out extremely sarcastic. And the reason for that is because there is no way, really, even if you did a comprehensive study, there's no way to account for all these things in everybody's genetics and everybody's particular diets. How do you account for all that? And especially, it's not just a current diet.
People, that's such a small pool.
It's not just current diet, because the diet that they've had for 20 years would have to be analyzed and monitored, and that would have to be all recorded, because that has a long-term effect. That's one of the things we almost never talk about concerning food. It's always short-term effects, but never the long-term effect. And that can play a huge factor. That's right.
And yeah, you're right. And then some people, their bodies are more predisposed to consume meat. They can handle it better. And, you know, some people have a really hard time digesting vegetables and different things. You know, everybody is different. You can't say one diet is perfect.
And it could have been,
it's not.
You know, one of the reasons that
everyone's different.
Yeah, but one of the reasons that people might even experience that is because of a bad diet their parent had, and now they can't even handle the meats normally like they're supposed to be, just like for various other types of foods. They can't handle
their previous diet that they had before they changed caused so much damage to their system that they can no longer handle healthy things as they normally would be able to.
And let's throw in another factor. What about vaccines? Did they check and see if all these people were vaccinated or not? Because many of the vaccines cause these allergic reactions to some things, and people can handle some foods and not other foods. So the point we were trying to get at is that there are so many varying factors here.
This article is completely subjective.
Yeah, it's subjective. You cannot possibly objectively look at this without all these factors taken into consideration, and the average doctor doesn't even know his basics about health and proper diet when they're trained in pharmaceuticals. So how are you supposed to do a comprehensive study on this? That's the point we're making.
People who maintain a vegetarian diet were also found to be twice as likely to be mentally disturbed, reports several websites, and generally have poorer mental health.
Okay, I'm going to do a study that shows that people in the United States versus people in Europe, the United States tends to have more mental problems. So apparently living within the borders of the United States of America causes you to have more mental problems. Certainly, it couldn't be from any other factors besides this, right?
Oh my God.
Because most of them, stop and consider, for most people's mental problems that they have, if they have any sort of psychosis or whatever they're going to call it, okay, most of the time they don't even know where it comes from. That's why they just throw drugs at them, is because they don't even know what's causing the problem in the first place. How can you step out and blame this on someone's diet when you don't even know what's causing the problem?
It could be their diet, it could be stress, it could be environmental factors, it could be GMOs, it could be a lot of things.
Well, I like meat, and I've never cared that much for vegetables, so I've always thought vegetarians were a bit off anyway.
Well, and see, that's my point, is the guy just doesn't like vegetarians, and so he's claiming this, like, oh, they're nutty, you got to be insane not to eat meat. I've heard that from so many people.
So you're saying he's trying to...
What do you mean you don't eat bacon?
Lorraine, you're saying he's trying to get revenge on his mother for making him eat his peas.
Yeah.
That I could understand.
Yeah, that's logical.
I understand that from personal experience. But the Tanya's laughing a lot because she knows me better, because she grew up in the same household I did.
It's a texture thing.
The thing is, you don't know where a lot of this is coming from, but you're presuming, and even then they may say, well, we didn't say that it caused it. They said it could be. Yes, but you're implying it now.
Heavily.
And you're trying to convince people that you have some sort of,
Evidence.
study that is, like I said, comprehensive in some way, that is actually legitimate, and trying to put this onto the people as if you've done your full research onto the subject, and look at what strides we're going to take in the scientific community by doing this. This is absurd to tell people that you might be eating too many vegetables, because that's exactly what they would imply. If they're saying that the vegetarian diet is causing this, they're not just saying that it is a lack of meat that's causing this. They're saying too many vegetables, because if you're also putting into factor people that eat little meat and a lot of vegetables, well, you see, you're more susceptible. So if you're going to eat little meat, then tone down on your vegetable count. So that way you don't get as much nutrients, and then you won't get all these horrible mental illnesses.
Well, I was just about to make the point that the Japanese do eat very little meat. I mean, they'll have
That's
fish.
right. That's an excellent point.
And they have, their longevity is huge. They have one of the longest lifespans in the world.
Fantastic argument.
And their serving size of meat a week is the size of their palm. That's how much meat they eat a week. The rest, vegetables.
Vegetables.
Soup.
Now they'll eat fish and things like that.
Fish,
but still.
But like for breakfast, they'll have miso soup, a side salad, maybe a poached egg, and like a little bowl of rice. And that's their breakfast.
And I'm telling you, if you know
vegetables at breakfast.
If you know how to fix a proper recipe for miso soup, it is so good. It is very, very good. So the Japanese have all sorts of fantastic recipes for what they do, but most of it is vegetable stuff, and things also like seaweed and stuff like that.
And bone broth.
Yes, incredibly healthy for you. And yet, and over there, they do not get as sick as often as we do over here. Certainly, there cannot be any correlation.
A lot more too.
No correlation. I mean, part of the reason they don't eat as much meat is because they don't have anywhere to store cattle. They don't have enough room over there. So you have to basically eat vegetables or what comes out of the sea, or you get nothing. So, but certainly there can't be any correlation between their health and that. No. Got to find another excuse.
Thank you so much for bringing that up. I was just thinking about that, but I was also thinking about how the way the article has described the study makes it appear that it was scientifically incorrect. They just really did not set that up very well.
And on top of that, I'm surprised that restaurants, like fast food restaurants, do not come after them for this article. Because,
why would they? They're
meat-based. That's because what Kevin just said. He's like, well, you have to define what's a vegetable.
Oh,
and he talks about French fries.
Yeah.
Okay. So now people's like, listen, don't order that side of French fries with your hamburger from the fast food restaurant, because you'll get sick, and you'll become apparently mentally retarded.
Oh, no, but if you have an equal amount of French fries along with your meat, then you're okay. Never mind that they don't biodegrade.
Don't forget to buy your Pepsi or Coca-Cola on the side, so you get your 3 basic food groups there.
Yep, sugar, fat, and fat.
The University of Graz. Do you want to say something?
I just said and supersize it.
The University of Graz study says that vegetarians were twice as likely to suffer from anxiety or depression. A similar study from the University of Hildesheim found that vegetarians suffered from more depressions and anxiety.
I can tell you where they probably suffer from more anxiety and depression is because of their philosophies. You see, the sad part is that vegetarians have gotten a bad rap because of the hippies that started doing it. All right. And a lot of them have all sorts of new age wicked philosophies, whether you got this, all the civil rights support activists and things like that when they do this, and they have all these wicked communist philosophies. They denounce God, they hate the Christian God of the Bible, and they wonder why they're sick and depressed all the time. Well, that could be part of the reason right there. Is that the kind of people that I've met who have some of those sick depressions and things like that, what he's talking about, there's so many of them that are so confused about what it is they actually believe, where they actually stand on things. And that's why, people who get depressed and they become suicidal, they think there's no meaning to life anymore because they can't figure out what philosophically the way you're supposed to think in order to live in this world. I mean, God designed us to think in a certain way.
What's the point of it all?
And that's what I'm trying to cure, at least at Creation Liberty Evangelism. I'm trying to cure that. Lorraine's trying to cure all the other stuff through her business with her
I found my
community
point of it
support.
all.
CSA means community supported agriculture. We used that term earlier. I forgot to say what that meant. But that's what she's trying to do.
I have basically further define that, you get a weekly subscription of vegetables.
Right.
That stands for.
And it's fresh grown stuff. And if you get the farms that don't have the the pesticides and all that to them, you don't want that stuff. But she's trying to fix the physical side. I'm trying to fix the spiritual and mental side of things. So we make a good team is the point. But that could be one of the reasons, and they don't contribute those factors into this stuff because they're not saying how they selected the people. And they're not really, there's no way you're going to get any two people that's going to be exactly alike to make a fair study.
Yeah, it's basically blanket saying that everyone's the same. And if everyone's the same, well, then there must be one diet for everyone that is best.
Right. And there really isn't.
No.
Which is why, parents should be deciding what their children should be eating, what diets they should have, not the state.
Well, unless their parents make really poor choices.
I know, but their parents, if they make poor choices, well, then they... That's not the child's fault.
No,
it'd be the parents' fault.
Have M&Ms for lunch.
But I'm saying that for the state to come along and decide, here's how much of this you should have, how much of this you should have, how much, and make all these state standards. The standards are based on whatever the AMA has said at the time, and the AMA is the one. I mean, they're the ones that promote vaccines. They're the one that says there's no cure for diabetes. There's the one that says that there's no cure for cancer.
And
they're the
French
ones.
Fries are vegetable.
Yeah, and they're the ones that send all this stuff to the FDA, and the FDA approves all sorts of things that have killed people in the past, and people don't even. It's like the media doesn't even bat an eyelash at this problem happening. So these are the very same people that are building the standards on what America says should be your average healthy diet. Even then, even though what they recommend is better than the average American diet, it's still not standard to what each individual person needs to have. So Lorraine made a fantastic point.
I was actually going to suggest also that a lot of vegetarians could possibly be depressed because people are constantly trying to get them to eat meat. I mean, I don't know about Lorraine, but I know if I were vegetarian, that would be very upsetting to constantly be offered meat when that's not something I ate. And, practically shoving it down your throat, that's mean. And that would be very depressing over time.
It was actually worse when I was almost fully raw because people were like, oh my gosh, you have to have some sort of protein in there. I can't believe you don't eat any. Oh my gosh, it was crazy. And it's just like, yeah, I'd have nuts and seeds, but they're like, you're not getting enough protein. I actually felt the best I ever have when I was eating completely raw.
Don't you feel lighter?
Yes.
You just
and you
feel
have
like you could float.
So much energy. It's unbelievable. And because your body processes the food better, you get more of the nutrients out of it, and you actually don't need to eat as much.
Now, I want to make mention on the flip side. We are not saying meat is bad.
No.
Okay, nobody is.
If you want to eat meat, great. I highly recommend grass-fed organic meat.
I know, but if you want to understand part of where we're coming from, there's another documentary I highly recommend called Food Inc.
Yep.
Watch that. And I've seen there's a couple that we know that's friends of ours who eat fast food because they travel on a regular basis. They said they wouldn't eat fast food for 2 weeks after watching that.
Which is sad that it only lasted
for 2 weeks. But at the same time,
really?
Even they were like, whoa, we didn't realize what we're actually consuming from this mass-produced stuff. So get with your local farmers. Local farmers often will provide this stuff.
Small local farms.
Yep.
I mean, there's so many of them, and if you want quality, that's the place to go.
And they're not a bunch of rich people. They need the support.
They really do.
So the study, vegetarians suffered more from depressions, anxiety, psychosomatic complaints, and eating disorders. They also visit the doctor more frequently, as they're impacted more heavily by illness, who have a significantly better quality of life in all categories. And
eating disorders, you're talking about the bulimics that cause themselves to throw up and everything. Isn't their problem that they don't eat anything?
No, it's the problem that they eat and then throw it back up.
I know, but they're not really getting anything. So Really, vegetarianism is
No,
not their
it's more
problem.
mental.
It's the lack of food that's their problem. And Lorraine made a good point. She said that when I muted the mic. She said it's more mental. I agree. It's
it's
that's
a
the problem.
mental, it's a mental thing of thinking you're too fat, even though you're consuming a low amount of food. And then, well, the idea is that you consume food and you let your body digest it just enough to where, you know, when you throw it back up, you still get some nutrients, but really you're not getting anything.
And that's really the obsession of beauty, which is vanity. The Bible says
it's bad.
Yeah.
I don't understand what your point is. It says New Zealand has about the second highest suicide rate in the world. Not at all surprising. Context?
Well, we can talk
Is it
about that.
because it's an island?
Let's let Josh continue.
Lost my thought. Right. So they had a significantly better quality of life in all categories, according to the research. The categories being physical and psychological health, social relationships, and environment-related life quality. It concluded, our system has shown that Austrian adults who consume a vegetarian diet are, in terms of cancer, allergies, and mental health disorders, have a lower quality of life and also require more medical treatment. Speaking to the Austrian Times, study coordinator and epidemiologist Nathael.
I'm sorry, I wish people would define what they mean by lower quality of life. Because as far as I know, of all the products that people would buy that would cost the most, meat would be it.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about quality of life in terms of people being able to afford the things they need, vegetarians would save more money.
Yeah, I just bought meat for our CSA cookout party. It was the most expensive purchase I've made for groceries in a really long time.
Yeah.
Outside of protein powder.
It's for all her CSA customers. They had a cookout thing for that.
I got 2 local chickens and 3 pounds each, and then 2 pounds of ground beef, and I paid $45.
It's incredibly expensive, incredibly. And so that and that's coming. And by the way, that's coming out of business accounts. That's not coming out of ministry money. No, we make sure we try to distinguish between those two. But the thing is, when that was the case, when the combined meat is costing pretty much more than what all the vegetable dishes are costing, define quality of life, which they never do in these types of articles.
Epidemiologist Nathalie Burkett said, we did find that vegetarians suffer more from certain conditions like asthma, cancer, and mental illness than people that eat meat as well. But we cannot say what is the cause and what is the effect. There needs to be further study done before this question can be answered. End of article.
Further studies need to be done before we can verify anything we just told you. Thanks.
And the next article, an article from CBS Boston, is titled, Vegetarians are nearly twice as likely to be depressed as meat eaters, study finds. This is a different study. Vegetarians are almost twice as likely to suffer from depression as those who consume a conventional balanced diet, according to a new study. The new Bristol University study of almost 10,000 from southwestern England found that vegetarians were more likely to develop depression due to vitamin and mineral deficiencies that can negatively impact their mental health. The new Bristol University study of, sorry, I read that right. The 350 committed vegetarians who participated in the study had a higher average depression score when compared to the meat eaters, according to the study, which was published in the Journal of Affective Disorders. The vegetarian's diet tended to feature lower vitamin B12 consumption, as well as greater intake of nuts that contain omega-6 fatty acids, which have been linked with an increased risk of...
You see, the problem is the meat doesn't contain B12 either. The meat used to contain B12 back when they were grass-fed normally and naturally.
Now it's more negligent.
Now, with all the paper feed and everything that they're doing through the mass growth of cattle that they're they don't have the B12 consistency in there. So what they're doing is they're basing it on what meat should contain, not what it actually contains in the average American diet.
Yep. Yeah, as well as a greater intake of nuts that contain omega-6 fatty acids, which have been linked with an increased risk of mental health problems. So they're saying that omega-6 is linked with increasing mental health problems.
Their points in that article so far are valid. However, an equal point is the majority of the United States in general is not getting enough omega-3. And the omega-3 is extremely important to balance out your omega-6. The omega-6, if you get too much of it, will cause problems, mental and otherwise. So you have to, by the recommendation of the healthy fatty fish like salmon is supposed to be super duper healthy, and that is why you want those healthy fats, which you can get from avocados and a couple other vegetables, but avocados mainly.
But fish with the Japanese, there you go.
Yeah. So, but you can also take a supplement if you want to.
Also, I mean, that's a long time ago, back with the Jews and all that, when they would take wheat and they would make it into bread and they would hand make bread, that has omega-3. And that was one of the main sources of omega-3 for people like that. But, well, that and the fish that they used to eat too. But that got taken out. And the reason that got taken out, things like omega-3 and vitamin E, was to make the bread last longer. Because it goes bad within a day if you don't eat it. And so in order to make more money, to make it last longer, they took out those things. And that's what's causing the problem. So when they're saying, well, not eating meat's causing you got to eat more meat's causing the problem, that's the exact opposite of what we need.
And what was the other thing? The B12.
Okay, I'm confused. How do they make more money by making the bread last longer? It seems like they'd make more money if you had to buy it.
The shelf life. See, when you take out, I apologize if I didn't explain it. If you take out the omega-3 and vitamin E, fatty acids, things like that, it makes it to where the bread will not go stale and rot. It can stay on the shelf for, how many weeks probably it'll survive on the shelf. And that way it sells through. Because one of the main problems, ask any baker, if you bake fresh bread, that's their problem, is sell through.
It's like bake a baguette, it's going to be a rock the next day.
Right. And the same thing even with what you're doing with selling vegetables at farmers markets. Sell through is the main problem.
Yeah.
And even then, you have problems where if you're down to the last one or two vegetable things that you've got on there, people won't touch it because they feel like, oh, they're getting the bottom of the barrel, even though what's on there is perfectly good.
Last one? I can't,
yeah, exactly.
I don't wanna buy the last one.
So sell-through is a big problem for farmers.
It's a mental thing.
And it's the same it is for bakers. So when they chemically figured out how to extract those things from bread, that's how they ended up doing it. And a lot of that goes through the GMO stuff. I'm not going to go into that. Tanya wants to say something.
Well,
grass-fed
Lorraine,
cattle.
I wanted to add here also that corn and wheat are the highest GMO yield products available on the market today. And what they do with the wheat is they, right before they're getting ready to harvest it, they spray it with Roundup, and it actually causes a higher yield. And during that yielding process, it genetically changes it because of the chemicals they've sprayed on it. So many people can't even digest the corn or the wheat anymore, even though those were perfectly acceptable to use, 50 or even 100 years ago. Those were perfectly fine for almost everybody. But now a lot of people can't even digest them. So when you look at the use of bread and eating vegetarian, you've got to get almost all of your nutrients from organic vegetables, or you're not going to do very well.
And now you don't want to say.
Well, I was thinking out loud.
You wanted to say something. I thought you wanted to mention what he said here.
Okay, yeah. He was saying that even grass-fed cattle can be low in B12. I made quite a few little B12 implants for going into the blood supply of the ear of cattle as a research on B12.
Do you want to mention to them who's talking and what his expertise is? This is Kevin, who's got he's a biochemical engineer, and he would be joining our church on a regular basis, but he lives in New Zealand and he can't join us every week. but he's been a long supporter of us, and he's on here talking about that stuff. And what he's, I mean, because he's saying the grass-fed cattle can be low in B12. Well, that, to me personally, I feel like that's an understatement. I think they're almost devoid of it, which is part of the reason why you've got so many poor health cows for poor health meat, and by the way, poor health milk that comes from the poor health cows.
It depends on if they're inoculated and other stuff too, but
yeah, but that's, I
getting
mean, like
them
I said,
not inoculated is super duper hard.
The factors in this are almost limitless at this point. And we talk about all night.
We were talking about how like omega-6 and the can have mental problems, or if you don't get enough omega-3, I believe you said. But it reminds me of magnesium, because I've heard people say before that if you get I said magnesium, I meant manganese. Oh yeah, manganese, right? So if
Manganese.
Like
manganese,
manganese.
Thank you. Manganese, yeah. If you get too much manganese, it will mess with you neurologically. That's what I've heard, and then I was like, is that true? Because I mean,
Yeah.
the limits have been set.
Serotonin levels.
Like the limit that they've set, like I think it's like 11.2 milligrams, or I think. But anyway, it's 1.5 cups of oats puts you over the limit, according to world's healthiest food. So I'm like, so 1.5 oats is bad for you? If you have 1.5 cups of oats, that's bad? Or because I'm thinking maybe they are exaggerating this, because I mean, I eat 3 cups of oats a day. I try to, but
That's a lot. But well, see, the thing is that if you eat a variety of fruits and vegetables, you're going to get all your essential nutrients and vitamins. You know, it may take eating a large bowl of salad. Oh no, but you will. You can get them all.
But not a salad
organic.
from places like McDonald's, where they give you just the iceberg lettuce. Or
don't eat iceberg.
Yeah, iceberg might be crispy and juicy, but it doesn't have hardly anything to it.
It's all water.
You might get a tiny bit
You'll
of
get
nutrients
a little bit, but not a lot.
Yeah.
It's not very green. You want green, color, variety. Eat the rainbow. Literally, you want to eat all the colors of the rainbow. There are purple vegetables. I can prove it.
oh yeah. And speaking of oatmeal, I have a note here. Nikola Tesla, he talked a little bit about an oatmeal, and I found out, and I have to look at the quote. But if you just type in Nikola Tesla oatmeal quote, he talks about oatmeal. And see, the comparison I was making, or that earlier to myself, was well, right, because the scientists that were saying, oh, manganese is you know, you got to be careful not to get too much, because you know, that could give you bad problems, and it could if you get too much. But I think the limit's too low, especially since another scientist, Nikola Tesla, who had here's a quote. It says, there is no doubt that some plant food, such as oatmeal, is more economical than meat and superior to it in regard to both mechanical and mental performance. Such food, moreover, taxes our digestive organs decidedly less, and in making us more contented and sociable, produces an amount of good difficult to estimate. But I thought that was interesting how he said that it was good for you mentally. And then these scientists are saying, oh, stay away from the manganese, you know, it's bad for you mentally. So I thought it was funny how they were saying the opposite.
Nikola Tesla would say that, because by a lot of accounts, Nikola Tesla was insane himself.
Well, I mean, debating that back and forth, because yes, there were some psychological problems he even confessed that he had, but at the same time, he was very brilliant. However, I'm not going to trust everything he says verbatim, even though he's very smart on a lot of technological, like engineering things. On the other hand, I would say if he thinks that oats are some sort of miracle product, when horses start talking, I'll accept his analysis.
And the article continues. Slightly more than 50% of vegans and 7% of vegetarians have a vitamin B12 deficiency, the researchers said. Vitamin B12 can be found in red meat and plays an important role in affecting an individual's mood. Right. And other potential factors include high blood levels of phytoestrogen, consequent mainly on diets rich in vegetables and soya. The report says another potential contributing factor is that lower intakes of seafood and are thought to be associated with greater risks of depressive symptoms. The lack of a balanced diet can influence the development of depression, and the research findings can also be attributed partially to iron deficiencies, the study says. Participants who had been consuming a vegetarian diet for longer periods of time had higher depression scores throughout. And that's the end of the year. Wait, no, that's not the end. There's a little more. Oh, sorry, I didn't see you.
Okay. Part of the issue there is, well, yes, vegetarian diets, it is highly recommended that you take a either a B complex or B12 supplement because, yes, grass-fed stuff doesn't contain B12, or not nearly as much as you need, which we do supplement. I recommend everybody supplement with it because you're not going to get enough of it anyway. I know meat eaters who have had to go and get shots and all the B12 shots and all that because they've been highly deficient to the point to where their functionality isn't what it should be. But also, if you're a vegetarian and you consume a lot of soy, you're going to be running into a lot of problems. Men, don't eat soy. It's high in estrogen. You're a man. You don't need that much. That's all.
And yeah. My mom and I are soy free because, yeah, that's what my mom says. She says that same thing that you just said. And they mentioned an iron deficiency here that, yeah, the study, yeah, they mentioned it, the iron deficiency. And that reminds me, see, when I,
Hardy heart. Iron deficiency, eat a little seaweed and you'll be good to go.
That's good advice. Because I remember when I first went vegan, it was about 2 years ago. For about 8 months, I ate just white rice and mixed vegetables they had in there, and I just ate that the same exact thing every single day. I just eat that same meal, and for 8 months, and I didn't get tired of it. But yeah, I just put salt on it, whatever, like garlic salt. But anyway, I started getting really tired. I'd be completely wiped out by 5 o'clock at night. I was like, why am I wiped out? I mean, there's still 5 hours left in the day or more. So I was like, why is this? But my mom, she said, perhaps it's iron deficiency. So we switched over to stew. We started putting lentil stew on the rice because lentils have a lot of iron. And then ever since then, I've been working till night and I don't get tired. So anyway, I think I had an iron deficiency.
That's awesome. I didn't know you were vegan. Way to go.
Oh.
I can't give up. Sorry. Well, I did for a while when I was raw, but yeah, butter and cheese are, little and a lot. A little is good, in my opinion. I like eggs. I like eggs. Okay, good.
I should clarify that maybe 6 months ago, roughly, I started eating more things like honey and what was the other one? Eggs on occasion. I don't really eat too many eggs now, or I don't eat eggs anymore. But anyway, so it's more vegetarian. But 2 times this year I ate meat. 2 times the whole year. 2 times I believe it was. So anyway, I'm veganish, I guess you could say. Mostly vegan. And that was the end. Oh no, there's a little more. But the researchers did not rule out the possibility that vegetarians' decisions to adopt their diet could have been a symptom of depression from the start. So maybe they're only vegans because they're depressed. Like, when you get depressed, you become a vegan. Maybe that was it. They didn't rule that out, is what they're saying, I believe. But yeah, that's the end of that article. In our final article, we have, this one's more humorous, I suppose, but should lead to some discussions. We have an article from Atlas Obscura titled "The Premeditated Zucchini Switcheroo." Stamford, Connecticut is a city of some 120,000 people, served by a main downtown library and 4 smaller branches. One of those, the idyllic Weed Memorial and Hollander branch, which is housed in a 19th century farmhouse, was this week the location for a vegetable-based crime. Right. And the branch has a sunny outdoor patio where for the last year, this youth service librarian, Marisa Busi, has been tending to its very own garden. 2 raised beds and a whole lot of plants, but disaster struck on Tuesday, August 8th, when an intruder found their way to the zucchini patch. Busi had been nurturing a single promising zucchini and counting the day until it was significantly large to pick. When she went to water it earlier this week, however, she spotted a very light, zucchini-shaped object in its place. She said, "I was like, that's not right. I got closer and noticed that it wasn't actually attached to anything." And she said, this was a cucumber in the middle of a zucchini plant. The culprit had found their way to the patch, armed with 2 cucumbers, after cruelly tearing the zucchini. Try that again. After cruelly tearing the zucchini from its home, they surreptitiously laid a cucumber in its place. The other was placed elsewhere on the plant. They were just nestled as though they belonged there and were premeditated. But it's almost over. Before installing the garden, branch supervisor Aaron Shia said they had considered the possibility that people might steal their produce. With no fence, no cameras, the library's garden is defenseless. But they decided it was a risk they were happy to take. They hadn't considered, however, that they might play victim to a swap so shocking. It shocked them to the marrow. And yet they have no leads on who might be behind the swap. They're just going to wait and see if any other produce gets replaced, Shia said. And if they do, she laughs. We probably find that quite funny. But anyway, that's the end of the article. I know, the whole reason I brought that up, it was a longer version. I probably should have went with the shorter version of that one. But because somebody stole food. Now, I do realize that it was some joke or whatever, prank, whatever. I mean, this is, they replaced it with cucumbers. But they stole food. Right? That was the whole point. I should just probably skip the article and just ask the question next time. But they stole food, right? And I'm just wondering, because I mean, scoffers bring that up all the time. They say, "What about when people steal food?" Because you'll tell them, thou shalt not steal. And they say, "Well, can't you steal to feed yourself and feed your family if you're hungry? Then stealing's permissible." And they're saying, "See, God's law is bad. It's not moral." And they use that they scoff at you and they say, stealing's acceptable in certain situations to feed your family. And I was just wondering if anybody had some feedback on that.
Chris can correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't the Bible make provision for that? If you steal to feed your family, then you only have to repay a certain amount. But
no, so whatever they left over from the harvest, anything that they harvested and was left over, that was fair game for sojourners, for widows, for anybody who is in need. They could do that, and
they're
also
talking about stealing directly from a patch, not from a field with stuff laying.
Well, if somebody was they were commanded to be charitable, really, when it came down to it.
Really, and any
If somebody was
vegetable
stealing-
farmer, if someone really needs the food and they stole the vegetables, I mean, I'd give them to them, honestly. If they really
see,
needed the vegetables, I'd be happy. Here,
Wasn't
take
there
them.
some kind of law too that said that they could, if they were going through a field, they could take what they could eat while they were there, but they weren't allowed to take anything away with them later?
I'm trying to finish. I'm just getting interrupted repeatedly, and I can't finish.
Sorry.
The point is that yes, there is one where they can do that. I think there was another, and I have to go back and check all the specific details. But I think there was another where yes, someone could, if they were stealing, they were taking something because they needed it. They were to give to them those things. The whole point is that when Jesus Christ came back, or not came back, but he came to us and fulfilled the law. He said what the fulfillment of the law was, is to love our neighbor as ourselves, right? And so charity became the fulfillment of the law. They had to do all these things by the letter of the law before, but under Christ in the New Testament, we do charitably. And charity was what the point that God was trying to teach them, is to give to the people that need it. So if somebody was in need, they can do that. And that's like Lorraine said, if they wanted it that bad, they can have it. You know, if somebody was going to take it. And that's, I mean, for people that are, that sounded like that was what their attitude was in the article. Like what they were like, well, that's a risk we're willing to take, meaning that we'll still grow stuff here, and if somebody takes it, oh well, they took it, you know. And obviously, if somebody's willing to steal, because you know, somebody stealing a cheeseburger from a restaurant would sound like more selfishly, lustfully seeking to fulfill, you know, the lustful desires than somebody stealing a cucumber, okay? Because I don't think it's too cucumbersome for somebody to, I did that for Lorraine, for somebody to, you know, a burden for them to give some of these vegetables, because it's not like people eat these vegetables because they're trying to fulfill the lust of the flesh. Obviously, some of these vegetables are not that delicious to consume, but somebody may have needed it. We don't know.
Right. And there's a verse that's somewhat relevant. It's oops, sorry, clicked the wrong button on the keyboard. Yeah, so it's Proverbs chapter 6, verse 30. Men do not despise a thief if he steal to satisfy his soul when he is hungry. But if he be found, he shall restore sevenfold. He shall give all the substance of his house. Anyway, it's correlates, I believe. But if that's all the material for today, so if there's nothing else to talk about, I suppose I'll close. All right. Hey, right. Sorry. Thank you all who have spent your valuable time to listen to us. We appreciate it. I'd like you to know that you can comment or read comments for this video by clicking the link in the description, which takes you to the forum. And on the forum where you can discuss things with us throughout the week, just post an introduction on the introduce yourself section and let us know who we're speaking with. So hope to see you there, and Lord willing, we're going to see you next week.